We're talking about that Thunderbolts asterisk reveal, Jeremy Renner's comments about Hawkeye Season 2, and more Marvel tidbits, plus the potential effect of tariffs on Hollywood. All that and more coming up right after this. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me on this lovely panel today, we have Haley Hobbs. What's happening, Haley?
It's not our normal day, but it's a good day. It's Multiverse News Day.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Happy to have you here, my friend. And Jay Sisson, what's going on?
Hey, doing great. Saw Thunderbolts last night.
Ooh.
Feeling good about it. And, ready to talk about some news this week.
I'm glad you saw it, because we're going to spoil it in a minute. At least one very
The
small
internet did it
element
way
of
before you could have done it. It's fine.
And J. Scotty St. Clair, what's happening, my friend?
Prepare yourselves for an earth-shattering reveal. The J in J. Scotty actually stands for Jedediah.
Whoa. Is that
You
true?
heard it here first.
So are you
Is it
going to start
true?
putting an asterisk
No,
at
it's
the end
not
of
true.
your name?
Oh.
Only real ones know what it really stands for.
That's true. That is true.
I feel like you told me. Oh, I think you told me before, but I'm not
He's
sure.
in hiding.
Don't tell
obviously.
anybody because
Never
we have to craft this into like a viral marketing stunt somehow.
That's right.
You got to give me some time to think it over.
J asterisks. Scotty St. Clair.
I look forward to it.
All right, well, our 5-star review, we always like to read one up top, from this week from Big Red Panda. I love when their names are, I'm assuming a reference to the network. Love it. Big Red Panda says, awesome source for great conversation on all geeky fandoms, plus a few sports snippets here and there. Keep up the great work. Those are the segments where I am silent. Nothing to say.
Well,
That's
trying to work it in when
the
we
Jay
can.
and Haley Tangent Talks and Patreon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, there's only like one.
All right. Well, thank you, Big Red Panda. We really appreciate you. Okay, so we're going to jump right into our stories. Marvel Studios has been in the news a lot during this last week with varying topics. We're going to break them down kind of one by one in sort of a lightning round where anyone can talk, because there's a lot of Marvel stories, but not one big one, I guess. Thunderbolts took the top spot at the box office with a $76 million domestic opening and a global total of $162.1 million. For those CinemaScore fans, the movie is sitting an A-. Spoiler alert. Talking about Thunderbolts, one element of it, spoiler alert. The studio has flipped the title of the movie based on events that occur within the film, and it is now being marketed as, again, spoiler alert, The New Avengers. The big reveal of what the asterisk stood for. Marvel Comics even joined in with the gag, revealing today that a previously announced new series called New Thunderbolts is actually going to be called The New Avengers.
Yeah, so I'll actually start by addressing, because I'm sure we'll get some comments. I'm just now remembering that the total gross for Thunderbolts was actually adjusted. I think they thought it was 76 and actually came in at 74. So, $2 million is not, going to make or break a movie. So this is it's a solid opening. It's an okay opening. I can't say that it's a certifiable hit, and it's also not a flop. So this is kind of exactly what we were expecting in terms of the projections here, but the word of mouth is really encouraging and bodes well. And this movie it's going to be a success or failure based on the weeks ahead. And I think it's been a while since the praise has been this effusive for a Marvel film. Like, I do think back to Deadpool and Wolverine, and that certainly had a lot of fervor, had a lot of excitement. But the conversation, not that shortly after, was there a lot of substance there? I think it was kind of gimmicky. A lot of cameos did not really give us the narrative satisfaction that we were looking for within the MCU there. So all of that in mind, looking at this $74 million opening, as far as this reveal for the new title, New Avengers, I think it makes sense why Marvel waited only 3 days to spoil that reveal. They want people in the theaters. They want to drum up excitement. They want to get that narrative going. So I do. I like the reveal. I think it's a great marketing stunt. I think it's a great ploy. It's getting the conversation going. It's got Marvel at the top of a lot of trending feeds and whatnot. But I do wonder long term if it's going to be the source of some confusion, because I'm already starting to see, is the official title actually Thunderbolts, or is it New Avengers? And I think based on my research, I can safely say that the official title is still Thunderbolts, and you might see it get like the subtitle, so Thunderbolts, the New Avengers. But if it does receive any like awards come award season, if it picks up any technical awards or anything like that, I think you'll see it awarded as Thunderbolts, not the New Avengers. Now, when it hits Disney Plus or physical media, that's a whole nother question. This feels like Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, the box office is an interesting conversation because it seems like it hit exactly what people projected it was going to hit. Mid-70s was sort of the guess. If you're Marvel, you'd really like that number to be closer to 100 on opening weekend domestically. And it kind of seems like they're getting boxed into that like $400 million range with, like, that's what Captain America Brave New World hit. And with this opening weekend, that's probably what Thunderbolts is going to hit. Whatever that worldwide box office total is going to be, it's probably going to have a 4 in front of it. If you're Marvel, like, you'd like for these movies to have a 7 or an 8 in front of them. So it does kind of speak to the future, and we've talked about this off and on for basically the entirety of the history of this podcast, is like, what does the future of Marvel at the box office look like when you've got the Disney Plus, when you've got the interconnected universe? Like, I thought Thunderbolts was a very, very good movie, and I thought people that I've talked to thought it was a very good movie. It was well reviewed. It was very well received, pretty much critically, basically across the board. And so you've got all those components, and we talked about those components are really important now for Marvel. Like, people aren't just going to necessarily go see it because it says Marvel Studios on it. There has to be a little bit more of a draw. And this movie, I think, has that draw. So the story will be written, and you said it, Scotty, like, the story will be written over the next couple weeks. Right. We saw Captain America 4. It had this, like, same thing, sort of like box office opening. We were like, okay, pretty solid, pretty okay. And then it just really went off a cliff in that second weekend. It's just like, kind of, the people who were going to see it in theaters saw it in theaters. They saw it on opening weekend, and there was not a whole lot of interest post-opening weekend. So I got to wonder, like, what our second and third weekends look like with Thunderbolts coming down the next couple weeks here. Like, are we going to see that same sort of drop? Because if so, that's not good for the box office total of the movie. But if people, again, word of mouth and maybe the marketing can kind of contribute, and maybe you'll see some more people start to go out to the theater. So there's a lot still to be written about Thunderbolts. And, I thought the marketing thing was fun, but as somebody who waited until Tuesday to see the movie, kind of thought it was a little soon. Yeah. Thought it was a little soon. Like, I was a little annoyed by it, to be honest. Whenever I started seeing. Now, is it a gigantic plot point? Like, not really. Like, you can totally enjoy the movie knowing that information. Like, it didn't taint my experience or anything like that. But I'm always curious when Marvel posts things. Like, I'll open up their comments section and I'll just kind of read through. And I was reading the comments on their New Avengers post, and it was a lot of people just being like, I'm really annoyed by this because I haven't seen it yet. And it's been out for 3 days and I just haven't gone. And why did you do this? Like, there was a lot of that. So again, it's like, for me personally, like, I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about it. But I was also kind of like, come on, man. Like, I was busy this weekend. Like, can I have a couple days before you, like, start changing the title around or whatever? But again, I see why they did it, and I thought it was fun. And it was, seeing Sebastian Stan, like, put up new posters was hilarious, and, like, seeing Florence Pugh, like, rip the title off and it's a new title, like, oh, that's fun. So I get it. But I thought it was a little soon. Like, I thought, like, man, can't we wait a week or two or something? I don't know. It's just felt a little soon to me.
I have a thought about that, like, part of Marvel movies doing well is that opening weekend being big and it being the movie you have to go see on opening weekend. If you miss it first week, then you miss it second week, you start thinking, oh, I might just wait till Disney Plus, and that drops at box office. This stunt may be, like, maybe the reason they revealed it so soon is they're trying to retrain audiences again to be like, no, Marvel movies are movies you go see like opening night or you will be spoiled. You know what I mean? I kind of think it's smart in that aspect because that's how I used to feel. I haven't felt that way lately because the conversation just isn't as buzzy after the movie is released. So like lately, I see them first because of the podcast and because I love this universe, but like a lot of people don't, and I don't see people like rushing out. Or a lot of people don't even know a movie is coming out. I'll talk to friends who used to go see them on like, oh, that's this weekend, and like they want to retrain the audience that this is a thing you go see on opening night. So maybe that 3-day thing was on purpose. The other thing that I think that Marvel, just like what I'm saying about that, I think they're always fighting the last battle. Like the results of one movie are always sort of predicated on how they've been doing on their previous films. It's not really often the box office. If you look at the box office of the entirety of the MCU, often the box office is not that reflective of the quality of the movie. And this goes for all franchises. Like if you have a great first movie, sometimes it doesn't hit in the box office because it takes a while to like build steam. But the second one can have, a lot of times sequels do way better in the box office, and you'll look at it and be like, how did number 2 of that do better than the first one? And you're like, and it's terrible. Like the sequel will be terrible, but it's great. It gets really good buzz. And I think it is more important that this be a good movie that inspires people to go see the next Marvel movie and see it on opening weekend than it make a lot of money this time. And I think that's one thing that Marvel needs to start doing again, is reinvesting that, just making a great movie so that next time people want to see it as badly as they did 5 years ago,
I don't have a lot to add to what's already been said. Just that, like, maybe for existing character movies, this is Marvel's new normal. I think that it'll be interesting to see what the Fantastic Four does. Yes, we know who they are, but these are brand new to this universe. So if it blows out of the water, like maybe, Deadpool and Wolverine is its own animal. It made $1 billion because of what it was. It's not the same thing.
Right.
So this just might be the new normal. And I think too, Jay, you and I were talking a couple days ago, like Marvel seems to be missing a little bit the whole make it an event thing, because we know that that's getting people to see some of these big tentpole movies, and they're not quite hitting that mark. And I don't know what it would be. Is it like, hey, come watch Florence Pugh walk off another building or something? I don't know. But I think they're a little bit missing out on that piece of it, which would be hard when they're going to put out 3 movies a year. So they're, they have a lot of things they have to balance to feel successful.
Yeah, it's like if you're Marvel, you've basically got, domestically in the United States, you've basically got about $75 million worth of fans, and like they will see it opening weekend. Like now that
Sure.
On top of that, though, you've got a lot of people who are on the periphery who are willing to see Marvel movies, and they like Marvel movies, and they watched Endgame and they like Spider-Man or whatever, but they haven't caught on to this new age of like the Disney Plus characters and the guy that I went and saw the movie with last night. Like we were kind of talking beforehand, and he was like, "Do I need to know anything for this?" And I was like, "Did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Did you watch Black Widow?" And he's like, "I think." And it was like, "Okay, you're gonna struggle maybe, but I think it'll be fine." And it was fine. Like he had a good time, and it was totally fine. And he didn't know any of those characters, and it was fine. So I think you've got people on the periphery that you can grab in. It's just, you got to get them over that hump to be like, it's Thursday, I want to go to the movies, or it's Friday, I want to go to the movies. Oh, cool, there's this Marvel movie. It's this new navigation that Marvel's kind of moved through a little bit. And we've heard Iger talk about, quality over quantity and all of that. And he even spoke today in an earnings call about he believes Thunderbolts is the first example of that, of like we're really prioritizing quality over quantity. Like we're not trying to put up 10 movies a year and a series or whatever. We're trying to put out like something super quality, so it really means something in the theater. So, it's just there's a lot to happen between now and Doomsday, and I think that's the real test of the power of Marvel at the box office, is like the Doomsday, the big Avengers, the Robert Downey Jr., do you have the movie magic still in that way? That'll be a big test.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do think the note about the existing characters is interesting, because I hadn't made that connection, but I think you're right. And I think we've seen kind of the flip-flop, because I was looking at this opening and I was like, okay, this is kind of in the middle of Shang-Chi, the Eternals. I think even if you look back at like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, it kind of falls right in the middle there. And I think this is, just significant of the change in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the times that we're in. And I do think, to your point, Fantastic Four is going to be very telling. Are people more interested in new characters, or are they interested in the continuity of the MCU?
Or just Pedro Pascal?
For sure.
We all know the answer to that question.
Well, and I have a feeling we're gonna get a similar. I think they did this for. I mean, maybe they're just looking back at their old playbook because they did this for The Incredible Hulk, where they put out the movie and then a few days after the movie came out, they had trailers that had Robert Downey Jr. in them. And I wonder if we're gonna get Fantastic Four. And then we're going to see trailers that mention, and our first look at Robert Downey Jr. as Robert Downey Jr. as Robert Downey Doomer. I haven't done that.
I mean, I totally
like
see where your head was at, though. Totally makes sense.
But like 3 days after Fantastic Four, if you don't make it to the theater, are we going to get spoiled with the fact that that's in the movie? You know, and I think that's very possible. And that may just be that they've been doing that since 2008. It would not surprise me if they're going back to old playbook stuff. All right. Well, also coming from Marvel, we got Jeremy Renner was interviewed by podcast High Performance about his new memoir, My Next Breath, and revealed Marvel offered him a role in a second season of Hawkeye, but only offered half the salary he received in season 1.
On its face, this sounds awful, right? You're like, what the hell? How could you only offer Hawkeye half his salary for a show called Hawkeye? If you stop and think about it, it was probably half for a lesser screen time role. If we're being completely honest, we want Kate Bishop to be Hawkeye. That's what Marvel's pushing for. She's the new one, right? So we don't know the details. I don't think a lot of the details were shared. Knowing your value is important. I don't hate anybody for that. So his comments just felt a little personal. You know, it was almost like he felt he was being offered this because he was being seen as lesser. I have a really hard time believing that because other actors speak really highly of the caliber of actor that Jeremy Renner is and how he is as a person. So, it looks bad up front. Of course it does. Anybody who's being offered half of $14 million is going to probably balk a little bit. I would too, but I'm never going to get that kind of offer of money, so it's okay for my life. I'd be like, that's fine. I'll take that 7.5. That sounds great. But, take a step back and think of it probably from a business standpoint and probably from the direction they were thinking they were going to go with that show, which was going to be focused more on Haley Steinfeld, most likely.
Well, and just to give it more context, he spoke about it in the context of him having had his accident a couple years ago and had the statement, do you think you're going to pay me half? You think I'm half a Jeremy Renner now? And it was very like an aggressive response, I'll say. So it's hard to, just be like, whoa, dude. But that's how I feel. I kind of feel like you're taking it out of, you're taking it to a place that like, there's a lot of reasons this budget may be smaller. Marvel was making these shows like movies prior in the other timeline or whatever before this, and now they're switching over to making them more like TV shows. It's very possible to be more episodic. You may only be in a certain number of episodes. It will not feel probably as I'm guessing they'll keep the budgets more under control, kind of like they did with, I think Daredevil was a more controlled budget. It's more of a street level story, and I think they'll continue to do that kind of thing with these stories and not be as, you may not get the big bridge fight where he fires an arrow and it uses PIM tech. Like, they may not do those big things. It may be a more grounded story because they don't want to spend the big CGI budgets and stuff. And that may go to the actors making a little less too. And it may be less time consuming. I don't know. But like, there's a lot of reasons they might have, and him going to kind of taking it to 11 and being like, I'm going to blame this on my accident, felt a little like, whoa, I don't know, man. I feel like you might be biting off your nose to spite your face, that sort of thing. Like, yeah.
I had the same reaction. Like, I read the entire quote and I was like, I have a hard time picturing that people at Disney were in a boardroom and they were like, he got ran over, so let's offer him half. Like, it's kind of like, I just kind of felt like, maybe that wasn't the thought process. Like, maybe they just only wanted you in like 3 episodes or something. I don't know, instead of like 6, but who am I? Like I said, we don't know the details, but I did kind of think it was a little bit like, yeah, I think you're kind of, I don't know, Jeremy, maybe you're equating two things that don't equate. Like, maybe it's just, like you said, maybe this is Haley's show now, and it's just kind of like less of money. And yeah, you can't, these budgets for these Marvel shows were out of control at the beginning. I mean, like, Hawkeye was part of the first round. Like, when they announced the first round, like the Lokis and the WandaVisions and all that, they were like, these are going to have movie budgets. And you just simply cannot do that.
How much money did they put into the Steve Rogers musical? Like that is a huge thing to put
Nothing
on.
into the costuming.
Well, but the costuming and the dancing and the choreography and the songs, like that's its own production. And like, yeah, I don't know, it's just a lot. So I think it's probably scaling down.
If I'm Bob Iger and I saw Secret Invasion and I saw the budget for Secret Invasion, I'm like, okay, Feige, your checks are going to start bouncing if you write them that big anymore from here on out. Like you got to get these under control. So at the end of the day, we don't know the details. It is headlines, totally a bad look. This is a thing that in the PR world, it does not look good for Disney. It makes them look greedy. And, it should be said too that Renner said, like, he didn't say anything about being done. He was like, I really love the character. I really love working with people at Marvel. It's just...
Really love money too.
It's kind of different than what he said in his book.
Well, yeah, I mean, more context there, and the message changes. So, at the end of the day, we're kind of speaking on something we don't totally know about, with contract negotiations, but we do know how it looks, and it looks good for Renner. It does not look good for Disney.
It's interesting though. When we got on the call, I asked you guys before we started. How are you guys feeling? How are you feeling about this? Because I wanted to gauge your reaction. Because I was like, "Am I being heartless here?" And everybody was like, "No, that's kind of how we all." So I'm wondering if he overplayed his hand a little bit and made everyone feel like that, and it's not really going to look that bad for Disney because everyone's like, "Really? They didn't say that." You know what I mean? Like,
right. And it should be said, it is a miracle that he's alive. Like, he
Absolutely.
technically died, and we're not at all trying to downplay what happened to
not
him,
a bit.
because it's horrific. But yeah, it's just, then something like this just does leave a little strange taste in your mouth. Like, huh?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We're very glad he's okay, and we love him. But yeah, just that the reaction to that it seems pretty across the board, at least for us four. Another thing about Hawkeye being less in this one is the last thing we saw from Kate Bishop is her meeting Kamala Khan, and like that seems like there might be room for a lot of other cameos. So if it's a Kate Bishop story, I'm assuming Renner would be in it, but like also you might have any of the other like young Avengers or whatever,
Or even Clint's wife was revealed to be Mockingbird. Like,
right?
There were a lot of threads they could have chased. So who knows?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see. This next story, The Hollywood Reporter has received information from sources saying that Ryan Reynolds is in early stages of development, developing a new Deadpool movie that would feature X-Men characters with Deadpool potentially in a supporting role.
Yeah, this news, it was a Hollywood Reporter exclusive. They just kind of put it out of nowhere, and it was just this idea that Ryan Reynolds, now he is in the middle of a project right now, actually with Hugh Jackman, and I think Sean Levy's involved too, where it's like a boy band sort of movie. It's supposed to be like a comedy or something. So he's in the middle of that, kind of right in the thick of it. And that's still in the very early stages of production. But this was thrown out there as a very distant project that he is currently working on. That he's working on putting together this idea that and right now that's what it is. It's an idea where he's assembling this idea of a few X-Men plus Deadpool. The article said somewhere between like 3 and 4 X-Men. And then that the way that the movie would be written is that Deadpool is not necessarily like a forefront main character, but that he would sort of be a supporting role alongside this team. Almost kind of like what Thunderbolts did a little bit, where you've kind of got like a sort of a team-up type movie with like a sort of main character and then many supporting characters, but that sort of idea. So I think it's exciting. I mean, I think if you're Disney, you definitely want more Deadpool. This is your only, your only Marvel $1 billion movie last year, and since Spider-Man, which they share custody of with Sony, and before that, you had to go back pretty far to find a $1 billion Marvel movie. So they want more Deadpool. They want more things with Deadpool in them, and I think there is this is not the same as the X-Men movie, and the article did say that, like, there is an X-Men movie being developed. This is not that. This is a separate project that Ryan Reynolds himself is trying to develop and then eventually, hopefully, pitch to Disney. So we're a long way off, but it's still a fun kind of thought to think for the future.
Yeah, when you bring in $1 million or $1 billion rather, there's not much that doesn't roll off your back. So
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
I thought it was interesting in the article. Reynolds is quoted as saying he wants to take a step back from acting and he'd rather focus on stories and directing. And not just because I don't think he's a very good actor, but I thought that was an interesting take for him, and I think that makes sense. Like, I actually do think he's good at developing stories, and I think that he could excel doing that. I find I have a little teeny tiny bit of concern that he might do an X-Men movie and there might be another X-Men movie, and so are the Deadpool movies still going to live in their own little sphere within the MCU or within Disney? Which, that's not what I have an issue with. I just think it might, I don't know. Maybe I do have an issue with it. I'm just curious more than anything.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, where will these movies live? I really was shocked. Deadpool and Wolverine, the end of that movie, they go back to their own universe, and it was like, wait, what? What was the point of all of this? Like, this was the movie you joined the MCU.
The point was that fat check.
Yeah. It felt, I mean, I said this at the time, it felt a little bit of like a rug pull, because this was supposed to be, hey, look, Deadpool is joining the MCU. And yeah, it was connected to the TVA. Like, that was very cool. And I love Loki. And so those connections were awesome. But like, it didn't really connect much with the actual 616 or whatever. And so, yeah, I think are we going to combine those, or is it going to just continue to be a Fox universe going on forever that we get little windows into, Secret Wars, all that stuff, and then they'll just keep existing? And will we ever have our X-Men that live here in our universe? I say here in the MCU.
Well, if we didn't get enough Marvel, I do have one more last little tidbit here that I came across, and that's that Charlie Cox came out and went on record and said that episode 5 of Daredevil Born Again season 1, which was the bank heist episode, was his least favorite. And I gotta say, I feel vindicated, because I liked the episode, but I didn't love the episode. And I think I'm with him that it was my least favorite overall.
Did he say too, I think I saw this in the headline, like, did he say too that like they had shot that one before the strike or something, and it like felt
I believe he did confirm that.
Yeah. It was like they had shot it and they had it in the can, and then the strike happened and they were like, we got to rewrite this whole show, but like they kept all that stuff or something. It was like a weird disconnected thing.
I think that it wasn't rewritten or something like that.
Yeah.
We were saying that when we watched that episode, that like this seems like it was originally the pilot, because they introduce all the characters. Like, he talks about, he's talking to Kamal Khan's father, and he's like telling her who he is and how he's a lawyer, and like it just sort of sets up the show. It felt very much like this is a pilot for a show that didn't happen. I still like the episode, but yeah, it definitely feels disconnected. Yeah.
It's no episode 7.
Which one's episode 7?
The one that you said was your least favorite.
I still don't remember what happened.
Muse. I'll just say Muse.
Oh, yeah. I didn't like
Art for Art's Sake, I believe, was the title.
Yeah, that was my least favorite episode. me and you, J. Scotty, we don't always agree on things, but we very rarely are so like diametrically opposed on an opinion. Like, this is my favorite, this is my least favorite. Like, that's funny.
Right. Yeah.
All right, last here, we got Fantastic Four First Steps director Matt Shakman revealed that voice actor Matthew Wood is doing the voice work for the role of Herbie in the film. Wood is known for voicing General Grievous and has worked in sound for Lucasfilm and Disney for many years.
This isn't very interesting as it's a sentence being read, but Matthew Wood deserves his flowers, because if you go look at his IMDb, and within the Star Wars fan base, he's extremely well known about all of the projects that he's worked on, and then his General Grievous voice work, and then you've seen him on screen as Fat Bib Fortuna in the Book of Boba Fett, who is Jabba's, like major domo that Boba Fett kills in a very brutal way. So anyway, I've heard about Matthew Wood throughout the years, and I've seen him in different like behind the scenes things, and it's kind of fun that he's in the Fantastic Four as Herbie.
Frees Natasha Lyonne up for another role.
Ben Grimm's girlfriend.
Could be.
Alicia
All right.
Basters.
R.I.P. Paul Walter Hauser as Herbie rumors. 2020, 2025.
Sure.
that closes out our Marvel section for this week. Up next, we have perhaps the biggest story to hit Hollywood since the writers and actors strikes a few years ago. U.S. President Donald Trump announced. It's weird. It's weird to have his name in our script. It's never been before. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on his social media platform on Monday that he aims to start including Hollywood in his tariff plan. In his comments, Trump announced that he wants to institute a 100% tariff on movies coming into the United States and that are produced in foreign countries. It is unclear how this would be implemented at this time, as films are not goods. However, many films take advantage of tax incentives offered by states and countries to film in their locations, and these could be affected. In an already turbulent time for Hollywood, what could this mean for the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're not a political show, but this is the biggest story in Hollywood for sure at the moment. This is what people are talking about in the industry, probably more than anything right now, because it is so uncertain, and we are such at the forefront of it. This came via social media post. It was in the middle of the night, and it had no warning. and it kind of,
like a thief in the night.
It just sort of shook up the industry. Like, if you're a producer and all of a sudden you see this and you've got your whole production going on in London or whatever, you're like, okay, so what does this mean? And I think at the moment it should be said that, we really don't know what it means. Making a movie is a really complex process, and it's not the same as sending a bunch of parts to China and assembling it into an iPhone and then shipping it back to the United States. It's very different. You're creating the intellectual property in the United States. You're writing the scripts, you're producing it, you're, all of that, and then you're shooting parts of it in the United States. You're shooting parts of it in other countries. You're shooting on location in some cases. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that. So how do you tax that coming back to the United States? And I think at the moment, we're at the point where it's not clear, because it's going to have to be something that we have more details on, because, you've got different types of films shot overseas. You've got like an example of shooting on location would be like Mission Impossible. Like, you can't shoot Mission Impossible in the United States. It's shot on location. It's like they're in certain cities. You can't shoot like a movie that takes place in Rome or something. You don't want to shoot it in,
how about
Georgia
James
or whatever.
Bond? Amazon,
James
an American
Bond,
company,
right,
just got ownership of James Bond.
Yeah, like these are on location. So you have that. Now, I think probably what would be more affected than that would be like shooting on a sound stage. So Marvel does this, for example. They used to shoot in Georgia, if you remember. But they don't do that anymore because the UK offers them a pretty nice tax discount to shoot in the UK. So what they do is they shoot their movies in the UK, even though you could theoretically shoot them in Georgia. They're not, or any US state, they're not on location. But it makes more financial sense to shoot it in the UK. So I think a movie like that, that's probably what's being talked about here. The problem is, though, just by, let's just assume you could slap a 100% tariff on the movie. The problem is that doesn't fix your problem. It just makes the movie more expensive. So if you want to have a company come to America and make a movie instead of the UK or wherever, New Zealand, whatever, you need to offer the same incentives in the United States that they're getting there. So like, in positive news on all this, that has been the conversation this week. We've already had like California governor, like Gavin Newsom. We've had like other governors come out and be like, producers, in Hollywood being like, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it, we're going to kind of give our concerns, we're going to like, try to be like, let's propose a tax incentive program to shoot in LA or whatever, So there's those conversations happening. And at the end of the day, like, this is not even a political statement at all. It's just, this is kind of what Trump does. He kind of just has thoughts. He's kind of just always been this way. He has a thought, and then he just kind of like fires the thought out, and it's like a very extreme version of the thought. And then people sort of are like, it allows you to kind of control the conversation a little bit because it's like such an extreme, like this major thing is happening. And then you can kind of like get to the table and you can kind of like figure out what that looks like. And I think that's the stage we're in. I think it's a thought that was voiced on the internet, and then now you have panic, and then now hopefully we have conversations, where like Hollywood can say their piece and we can like figure out what that means. But ultimately, man, if you're talking about slapping these huge price tags, huge tariffs on imports, like you're gonna have some major consequences for the film industry. It's going to be bad for the film industry. It's going to kill the indie film industry for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so you've got these conversations of like worst case scenario, and then you've got like kind of like we're not to that point yet, but also you can see the worst case scenario. So we're on the beginning of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say here, and I can kind of see hopefully the middle ground where some negotiation can happen and we can kind of talk about it more. I think what is the goal here? It's probably to get film jobs back in America. You know what I mean? Like that's probably the goal. But can we do it in a way that's not destructive? I guess that's the conversation we got to have.
To take away a lot of the credit you gave him for that. No, I'm just teasing. Those conversations were already happening. Gavin Newsom came out weeks ago and was already in talks about tax incentives in LA. And a lot of people said he was being kind of slow on the trigger. They probably should have done that a few years ago when everything started to move to Georgia. Like LA was the hub to make movies. It became less so when a lot of other states started doing, and countries started doing these tax incentives. And like, so that was already going on. These conversations were already happening. And like LA is a convenient place for a lot of people to make their stuff because they're all there. A lot of productions happen there. A lot of talent is already based there. So like a lot of people want to do it. But other people, because a lot of stuff's happening online these days, are moving to Montana and stuff. Like they're just moving out where real estate's cheaper, where they can get a different lifestyle. The internet's enabling a lot of that anyway. So, but LA was still kind of a hub. It's becoming less so because more and more places are. Montreal is doing a lot of shoots. Georgia's doing a lot of shoots. But the thing is, I actually think this is. If you've listened to other podcasts I'm on, you know how I feel about Donald Trump. I'm not a fan. But
what?
This is the kind of thing that tariffs could be good for. If you have an industry that is that you want to protect in your country, and you put a tariff to keep that industry safe, and we do have a strong industry in this country for film, so a small tariff could just make it weighted just enough, if implemented properly, that those films stay here and they stop being stolen away by these tax incentives. But 100% tariff is just an idiotic thing to say. Like it's just I'm gonna say stupid shit. Sorry, I'm gonna say stupid shit to because like It turns out he had a meeting with John Voight, and John Voight apparently voiced his concerns about the industry and the way things were going. And Donald Trump said, "I only know how to do one thing with the government. I'm going to tariff it." And he just came out with that tweet.
The little brain worms said that to him.
RFK's brain.
So I'm hearing you say 100% tariff.
Tweet it. Exactly. And apparently John Voight immediately after came out and said, "I didn't say to do that. Like that's not what I said at all.
He did.
That's not it. That's not it."
Bear in mind, John Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone are the Hollywood ambassadors that were appointed by Trump. So I don't know how much I can trust what he's saying there, but I agree with a lot of what's been brought up. Jay, you used the word destructive, and Matt, while you highlighting some of the potential benefits of tariffs, but not at 100%. That was my takeaway. This feels like a tourniquet. You're using a tourniquet for what requires a Band-Aid. And there's no doubt in my mind, I'll refrain from getting too political either, but Trump wears who he is on his sleeve. He's a walking hyperbole. So there's no doubt in my mind that part of this is retaliatory towards the way Hollywood has treated him. We just had a movie last year, The Apprentice. I know he wasn't happy about that. There have been other things, but I won't pretend to have the business or political savvy to understand all of the ins and outs, but I think there are some potentially really concerning ramifications that we've discussed. And Jay, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. We're going to see fewer international and foreign films here in the United States, and that's going to directly impact your small theaters and your independent theaters that show those things. So you're shooting yourself in one foot while trying to bandage the other. It's just like this is not the way. So my hope is a little more optimistic, like you were saying. We're talking about extremes at one end or the other to find some happy medium in the middle, because if we do invoke 100% tariffs on foreign films. China's going to do the same thing to us. And as anime films and foreign films have become more and more popular, I think that's a shame.
Yeah, well, we don't know how other countries will react. That's the thing. It's like,
could
they? Right? Yeah, it's like, could they react? Well, yeah, that's the mystery. That's the problem. It's like you don't know. It's like, will a foreign country be like, okay, yeah, you know what? Okay, we'll work with you and let's debate and let's have a thing or let's talk about it. Or will a country just be like, oh, you want to tariff us? We're going to tariff you, and then it's just like, okay, well, now everybody loses in that sort of scenario. So. Yeah, I want him to tell Mel Gibson, like, hey, buddy, you're going to have to shoot Passion of the Christ 2 in Texas. Like, you're not going to be able to go to, Jerusalem or whatever.
Not the sequel to the Passion of the Christ.
Hey, they're making it. I don't know if we've talked about that, but yeah.
Time travel's involved.
I don't know, like, what time period you focus on. Anyway, this is a tangent.
Well, I'm gonna end us on a joke though, so you all get it all out because I've got a joke to keep this light here at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, last thing I'll say is, I guess, I think hopefully my hope is, as someone who just loves the industry and loves movies, and I think if you listen to this podcast, you do too. My hope is that there can be a conversation here, that this can be a how do we do this in a smart way? And I think if you can create a plan where you're like, you know what, we're going to actually make it to where there is it's basically a fine, right? There's no fine if you shoot on location. Because if I want to shoot at the Coliseum, I have to be at the Coliseum. So can we set, because that's just common sense that you wouldn't fine somebody for shooting on location, But then you're talking about, DC. I mean, DC, they just built a huge soundstage in London, in the UK to shoot there. They could have done that in the United States, So it's like, I'm hoping that at the end of the day that there's a conversation, right? That it's not just it doesn't dissolve into this whole thing, because I don't think it's quite there yet. I think we're just in that it blew up and the pieces are on the floor stage right now, and we're just going to kind of see how that gets put back together, and hopefully it's in a responsible way.
And one of the big problems with these tariffs, not just the Hollywood ones, but all of them, is it's just a line for corruption. If you say 100% tariffs, but my friends who are making pro Donald Trump movies, I'll excuse them from the tariffs. They can go do whatever they want, right? That's the problem with this, and that goes in everything. There was a trucking company this week that bought they're trying to. They took a bond out. They're working on, and they say in the statement they're buying $20 million of Trump's coin that he has, that his family owns. They're buying $20 million of his coin so that they can influence him to take the tariffs off of their trucking industry. And it's like, what world are we living in that is not illegal? You know what I mean? This should all be illegal. It is just a thing for corruption. His tariff thing is a power that Congress is not taking away from him, which they absolutely could, because they gave him emergency powers to do it. And it is a way that he, as one human, can affect the entire marketplace and make people come to him and pay fealty so they get the tariffs removed from them specifically. And that's what he wants. This is a power move. He gets to control Hollywood now. And I think that is gross. At the same time, John Voight had a meeting with him, and he went and announced this. It's the same day Escape from Alcatraz was on his TV at Mar-a-Lago or whatever, where he was. It was on TV. And the next day he announced he tweeted out that night that he was going to reopen Alcatraz because he saw it on TV. He's just seeing things, doing them. It's dumb. It's all real dumb, and it's all real corrupt.
Haley, soften the landing.
You want me to take us out?
Yeah, Haley, take us out.
Okay, so you talked about Mission Impossible. Mini plug that, it'll be on Bingers, Scott D, Matt and I, at the end of the month. Okay, so you know the story about Tom Cruise and the safety guy who wouldn't let him do something. And Tom Cruise was like, so I got a new safety guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it.
And we're out.
Oh, man. That's our feature stories this week. We got a lot of stuff coming up in the lightning round, Shogun Season 2, and Roadhouse Season 2 details, Sergeant Rock movie update, Chris Hemsworth and a yellow submarine, and new Star Wars book, plus much, much more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Multiverse News. Yeah, every week we like to talk about our Patreon a little bit after the break. Haley, you want to tell them about our Patreon?
Of course I do. You ought to join it because it's actually only $4 a month. And if you do the math, it's less than $1 a week. We've been saying it's $1 a week, but I mean, you're really getting a bargain at less than $1 a week. And if you join, you get a beautiful sticker, patron exclusive, and you get extra content, extra polls. We are committed to our tangent talks every other month, so this month we should be dropping one. We'll just have to, figure out what we're going to talk about. You could tell us what you want us to talk about in the Patreon because we pay attention to you over there. So please join it at patreon.com/multiverse newscast. Thanks.
Get over there, get that attention.
I gotta call out your orange nail polish really popped against the background of
thanks.
the purple sticker.
Perfect.
Nice.
Complimentary colors right
nice.
there.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
Imagine if you had an orange water bottle and that was on it. Like, just imagine.
These were a very impulsive nail choice too, so
I like
it worked out.
I like them.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. All right, and we like to shout out one of our patrons every week. So Ariel Carmen, thank you so much for being a patron. We appreciate you. And all of our lovely patrons over there. All right, we got a Spotify poll, and it's will the controversial stances of J.K. Rowling affect your willingness to watch the new Harry Potter series? And 26.4 of you said yes, 73.6 of you said no. We talked about this a lot last week, and I was really curious what our audience would like. If it would just even it's one thing whether you like it or not, whatever, but will it affect you? Will it even bother you at all? And so 73% of people said that they'll still watch.
I wasn't on last week, so I'll offer a quick perspective if I could. I'm definitely, sensitive to other people that, I don't agree with her comments at all, obviously, but my particular upbringing was I dealt with parents that had a lot of double standards. So it's like, oh, you get to enjoy this thing for a while, and then they kind of pulled it away. So like Pokemon cards, for example, I had a Pokemon card collection that my parents were like, oh, idolatry, we're taking it away.
You're telling me those things evolve?
Same thing happened.
Evolution is a lie.
Those are going to be a Passion of the Christ 3.
Same thing happened with Harry Potter for a while. So for me particularly, that's why I've always I've made a point to separate the art from the artist. If I enjoyed something, I'm not going to let somebody else ruin it for me. And that's my take. And I think it's an okay take to have.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think so too. I had the same thing happen with Magic cards. And I'm very upset about it because I had I don't know, they weren't alpha, but maybe beta. They were really early Magic cards, and they're worth a lot of money now. They were probably all torn up, though, so they probably wouldn't have been worth any money because I was playing with them actively, but, they were pretty early on, and, yeah.
I had quite a few friends growing up that their family was not cool with Harry Potter, but they were totally cool with Narnia, and it's it's like...
That was the Scotty household.
Yeah.
Yep. Lord of the Rings, Narnia, go for it.
Be like, tell me what Gandalf is again? A wizard? Oh, okay. It's weird.
I think a lot of times it's if something ages a little bit and it stays popular, parents just don't care. You look back at bands from the 70s that had satanic imagery to people back then, and now people just love it. Parents don't even think about it being an issue.
Yeah, the boomers are we don't want the satanic stuff, but then meanwhile they're singing Highway to Hell or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Highway to Hell.
No, because that has a beat, so that's not okay. Let's not get into this.
Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I said something about all boomers. I didn't mean it. Okay, I take it back.
I didn't think you meant all boomers. There are those boomers.
It's true. You know one.
Yeah, you all know one. All right, let's get into our lightning round. This is where I'm going to read a story, and only one of us is going to respond by shouting out our name to claim the story. But once per lightning round, you can do a rebuttal. So here we go. FX has officially confirmed an upcoming season 2 of its Emmy Award-winning series Shogun. The series co-creators and showrunners Rachel Kondo and Justin Marks recently wrapped a writer's room for the coming season, which will begin production in January of 2026.
Haley, on location? Just kidding. No, I still am kind of in the camp of I wish we'd left Shogun alone, but there is more material for them to pull from, so I feel like this was already confirmed, but I guess the filming date's confirmed, so all right, let's go.
I'm never going to leave the Japans.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. If these tariffs happen, we're gonna have to shoot Shogun in Yosemite National Park or something. It's
man.
Japan. Trust us.
Guy Ritchie has signed on to direct Roadhouse 2, the sequel to Amazon MGM Studios' hit action movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Will Beal, whose credits range from comic book movies such as Aquaman to action movies including Bad Boys Ride or Die, is writing the script.
Scotty, director of the first movie, Doug Liman, is conspicuously absent, and he was not one to be shy about how unhappy he was about his treatment on that film and the fact that it didn't get a theatrical release. So Amazon kicked him to the curb. I feel kind of bad for him.
Sergeant Rock, DC Studios' action war movie that was to shoot this summer, will no longer move forward at the current schedule due to location shooting issues. The film, set to be directed by Luca Guadagnino and star Colin Farrell, apparently needs to be shot during the summer and not the winter, which held up production. Insiders tell The Hollywood Reporter that the project is not necessarily going away, however, and would be reassessed at the end of the year for a possible summer shoot in 2026.
Haley, good, because we all want this chaotic movie, whatever the heck it's going to be. We want to see it.
I would also tiny butt to say that I would not totally count on it getting made if they're going to talk about reassessing, maybe shooting it next year. It's just that's usually the sign.
How dare
that
you?
You're heading in a direction where it's not going to get made because people are busy and they start other projects and they start other things. And, it doesn't mean it's totally canceled, but the initial news for this was that it was canceled. Like all the trades ran with it's done.
Oh.
And then the Hollywood Reporter was like, no, it's not done. They said that they might reassess it, but that's kind of coded language a little bit. So I would say this thing's maybe a little bit more on the rocks than the rocks.
The
Sergeant Rocks. Yeah, I didn't mean to. It's just natural, baby. Got Scotty rubbing off on me a little bit, but yeah, it's I wouldn't totally count on this thing getting made. So if you're a big Sergeant Rockhead, maybe hit the panic button.
There's so many of them.
Yeah,
there's a ton of them out there. We definitely knew who he was.
I'll chime in on this one too, just to say, I can't help but think of James Gunn's comments when he first took over DC Studios. We are a filmmaker-driven studio. We're not letting any movies enter production until we have a finished script. And it's like, well, did you have a finished script when Daniel Craig was, supposed to be the lead, and then we switched to Colin Farrell, and now it's only this far into production you realize, oh, this needs to be a winter shoot as opposed to a summer shoot or whatever it was. Just kind of does not feel like a finished script to me. But I'm just, that's just me.
Chris Hemsworth has been cast to star in Subversion, a submarine thriller that Patrick Vollrath will direct for Amazon MGM.
Haley, I like submarine movies, but they stress me out because being on a submarine is very stressful. But we like our Hemsworth getting some more action up in there, so let's go.
And one of us on this panel knows how stressful it is to be in a submarine. Is it stressful?
I've been on submarines. I was never stationed on a submarine, and I would have refused that duty. I'm not breathing recycled air and farts for any extended amount of time. I was on an aircraft carrier.
Oh, that's what it was.
My uncle was on a submarine for a while, and he was like, "Get me out of here."
That is my nightmare. That is,
I bet.
That is my literal nightmare.
It just feels like it would be so enclosed and crazy and not getting to breathe air. Ugh,
it takes a special kind of person. The nukes are a rare breed.
I can see the script for this movie now. It's like, they're going to launch the nukes and the only person that can stop them is Chris Hemsworth.
Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. He's going to go out there and stop him himself with his hands.
That's right.
Riding a torpedo with just a snorkel mask on.
Swinging Mjolnir.
Yeah. All right. Star Wars The Last Order is a newly announced novel written by Kwame Mbalia and will look at Finn and Janna's mission to save more children from the First Order. The novel will be released this year on October 21st.
Haley, yeah, surprise! They didn't announce like any new print stuff really at Celebration, but they're kind of dripping this stuff now. This will be a young adult novel, and we don't have a ton of like post Rise of Skywalker written material, so I think this will be fun. They're calling it action packed.
Apple TV Plus has renewed Seth Rogen-led series The Studio for a second season ahead of its May 21st season 1 finale. Matt,
Really? Okay, go ahead.
I'll take it. I'm really liking The Studio. I think I'm maybe a week behind, but just the episodes have been really, really solid, really well written, and the production quality is really, really higher than I was expecting. You know, I've seen other Seth Rogen-led shows that are like movies, and they just kind of are point and shoot, and this one they really went all in. There's an episode called Oneer where they're trying to get a oneer.
Yeah.
Like the whole goal is to get a oneer, but the episode itself is shot as a oneer.
I think most of them are.
Yeah. Oh, are they? I know they have long takes.
There's
they all have really long takes.
oneers.
Yeah, lots of oneers. But I think that one, like from beginning to end, never cut, and it's really impressive. There's other episodes I think that do cut, but that one it was really just because it's also like they'll zoom in on the screen of the oneer they're trying to shoot, so it's like a oneer within a oneer. It's really trippy and fun. Really
like
enjoyed
a tour.
it. Yeah, it's like a tour. All right, Practical Magic 2, starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, will release in theaters on September 18th, 2026.
Haley, it's a cult classic. Don't know who all was asking for Practical Magic 2, but we're getting it nonetheless. So, yay, I guess. Probably part of Nicole Kidman's commitment to work with female directors, which is worth mentioning.
I'll do a rebuttal on this one. I just hope it goes. The first one is really good. I saw it for the first time this year, actually, and it's a very small story where it's sort of like, is the magic real? Is it not? And there's like magic. There's a little bit of magic in it. It's really cool. But then like, I hope this one just goes full on superhero. Like it's no longer a romantic comedy or anything. It's just like they're witches and they're going crazy and they're just like jumping off roofs with umbrellas, but like with lasers coming out of their fingers, you know?
They start singing down, down, down the road.
Down the
Catherine Hahn pops in. They should cast Aubrey Plaza.
Oh, they should. I'm actually wondering, and to take it seriously, I was just teasing, to take it seriously, I'm wondering if they will be playing the roles of the ants, you know, especially with like the curse the family has or whatever. Yeah. I'm wondering if, you know, they're in the movie, there are ants that raise them and they're the younger people, but that's been 30 years ago or 20 years ago they made that movie.
It's the most likely scenario. It's kind of like the Beetlejuice 2 situation.
Exactly. So, I don't know. Sounds cool. In box office news, Sinners crossed $240 million worldwide, and a Minecraft movie continues to creep to $1 billion with $875 million worldwide total.
Jay, these are both Warner Brothers films, so Warner Brothers off to a great start. You know, Sinners just quietly continues to have these really solid weekends, and it has a really good word of mouth, and people are coming out of the theater and telling people to go see it, and I'm still seeing commercials for it on TV, like even though it's been in theaters for 3 weeks at this point or something. So they still feel confident in it, and I know people are still going to see this Minecraft movie, and it is going to cross $1 billion probably by the time we get together next week. So yeah, Warner Brothers has got a couple of very successful films on their hands for this year.
Mm-hmm. Rockstar Games dropped a second trailer for the long-awaited Grand Theft Auto 6, offering a deeper look at the graphical prowess, story, characters, and setting. Alongside the reveal, the studio confirmed a delay, pushing the game's release window from fall of 2025 to late 2026.
Scotty, if you've been a fan of the GTA series or Rockstar Games for any amount of time, this delay should not come as a surprise to you. If it does, I'm sorry. I feel your pain, but I kind of went into it expecting at least a delay this long. So let's talk about the trailer. I don't have any records here or anything like that, but last I checked, I think it got up to like 3.3 million views in record time, and it looks great. It looks phenomenal. I mean, obviously, they're going to be showcasing the best graphics that they can with a trailer like this, but from what I heard, all of it was captured on a PS5, and I was just really blown away with the character models, some of the physics that you see on display, and they seem like they're really just going to relish this Miami environment. Like, you get to see the swamplands with the rednecks and what have you, as well as the more ritzy, high life and high stakes crime heist and whatnot you can do there. So this game's going to be huge. How huge? Really huge. So we will. I'm sure we'll all be talking
we missed
about
the
it.
Audience participation there.
It's and you're not lying about the graphics. Like, it is stunning. Like, I don't think I've ever seen the game graphics as good as this. Like, I was looking at it like, is this? I mean, it is getting so close to realism. Like, at this point, like, even if you're not a video game player, like, pull up that trailer and watch it just for the technology of it, because it is like absolutely stunning, like what they've been able to do from just a graphic standpoint. And yeah, it's going to be major. They're going to ask for like over $100 for this game, and everybody's going to pay it. I mean, it's just what we're headed for. Yeah.
Yeah. A little tiny butt. Sorry.
There were no tiny butts in that trailer.
There were no tiny butts in that trailer.
There were a lot of butt shots in the trailer, like,
Yes,
like
there were.
at least 5 butt shots.
It's funny. I didn't see the first trailer when it came out a while back, but one of the things that was being complained about was there was a female protagonist. Is what I heard, and people were complaining about.
There's a
being
male and a female protagonist.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just heard the guff on the internet. But this trailer leaned into the fact that there seems to be a male and a female protagonist, and that's what interested me most about the trailer. Because you've got stories like Last of Us that really effectively like do the changing of characters that you're playing, but the characters are related and have this sort of story being passed between them. And then you have Spider-Man 2 is another a game that does that really, really well, and you get this story told from 2 perspectives.
Sure.
I don't know, something about it made me really interested to see if they can really hit me in the feels with a love story. Like being trading between 2 characters that are in love. Also, the character model for the guy looks so much like Paul Walker to me. Did anybody else get that? Was I the only one?
I can see that, yeah.
I kept seeing him, and he's driving fast cars. Like, I was like, is this supposed to be Paul Walker's character from Fast and Furious?
I was thinking Josh Segarra from She-Hulk. That's who he reminds me of. He was like their kind of himbo friend.
Okay. I'll have to go look him up. I don't remember what he looks like. Okay, so James Gunn has announced that the trailer for Season 2 of Peacemaker will be released this Friday, May 9th.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say, but good news tidbit.
Yeah. This might be our one of our tangent talks for this week. How about we hop on and do a trailer reaction for the patrons?
Sounds like a great boys show.
J. Scotty doing the intro dance.
Yeah, we'll practice the intro dance. Yeah, we'll really get it down.
I really hope there's a new intro dance in the new season.
I hope so.
That would be.
Oh, they have to.
Yeah.
It'd be a shame if they didn't.
Screenwriter Hassan Amini, best known for scripting 2011's Drive, has been tapped to rewrite Clayface for DC Studios. The Wrap has exclusively learned.
Jay, yeah, this popped on the internet yesterday, and it was out of nowhere. The Wrap has actually a pretty good track record. They kind of are at the forefront of some stuff sometimes that doesn't quite make it to the trades immediately, and it's not clear right now how much what we're talking about in terms of rewrite. Like, are we, like Jeff Snyder, he's like a Hollywood insider, he posted that he thought it was like a day 1, page 1 rewrite. Like, it was like a total overhaul of the script, which is not what you want to hear if you're looking forward to this movie that was originally, penned by Mike Flanagan. And so the other thought, though, that you have to consider is that in Hollywood, sometimes people do this. Like, they'll have a script and they'll pass it to someone else, and they'll kind of tweak it and maybe give suggestions, give notes, things like that, and then pass it back. So it's still kind of unclear where we're at with that, because it is such recent news. Like, are we talking like a full, like, James Gunn saw the script and he was like, this needs a total overhaul, or are we talking like Mike Flanagan's just too busy with Carrie and he just wants somebody to take a look at it and give their feedback, and it's just not a big deal and we're still on track, and we just don't know. But it could be either of those things. You hope it's that, though. You hope it's not a rewrite, because that's not good.
Right.
Yeah, I hope it's the latter for sure. Mostly because I like Mike Flanagan so much.
Right.
All right. Well, that is our lightning round. Let's go around and tell the people where they can find us online. What else we got going on? Haley Hobbs?
Lots of stuff over on source pages. Brian and I talked Thunderbolts. We're going to talk Daredevil this coming week, and Andor when that's over, and then talking more Andor. Now I'm Stellan Skarsgård.
You're saying it like Stellan.
Cassian Andor. We're covering Andor over on Always Watching. Scotty, Ashley, Jeff, and I, and that's been a really good time. And, well, this week might be less of a good time, but it's always good to talk Star Wars.
And Jay Sisson.
Yeah, you got Commute the Podcast Weekly that you can check out that I'm on, and then we are also covering The Last of Us on Always Watching as well, so your Always Watching feed is very busy. And there are only 3 episodes of The Last of Us left, so we are coming up on the end of Season 2, so still not too late if you want to get involved over there.
Sweet. And J. Scotty St. Clair.
Yeah, both shows have been mentioned, but you're hearing a lot of me over on Always Watching between the Andor Season 2 and Last of Us Season 2 coverage, so check it out.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Just please check out those on Always Watching for sure. And check we did all our Thunderbolts coverage over on the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast this week, and I will be there back on Last of Us this week over on Always Watching. Hey, it's the last day. If you're hearing this on Thursday, it's the last day of my Indiegogo campaign for the Daredevil album I was working on. I've not done near as much promotion of the thing as I'd hoped to by now with all the family stuff I got going on. So if you want to support it, this is the last day of that campaign. So go to strandedpanda.com/helpmatt and you can throw a few bucks, throw $20, get a CD, $40, get a CD and a t-shirt. And it's gonna be good, high quality stuff. And I'm really excited to do that album regardless, but I really want to make it everything I can make it. So I could appreciate your help.
Are you wearing a Daredevil shirt?
I am actually. Woo!
I thought it was Spider-Man
nice.
This whole time, and I just noticed it was Daredevil.
Yeah, representing for the album right here. No, it's
go.
just the only shirt I had that was clean. But no, strandedpanda.com/helpmatt to do that. That'd be really great. And we'll be back very soon on Multiverse News. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing. You know, eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. Strandedpanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts. And thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.